Picture this. A fish is hunting, not in the water, above it. It rises to just below the surface, locks onto an insect sitting on a branch 6 feet above, and fires. Not a splash, but a powerful jet. Precise, controlled, and aimed like a sniper. Got him. One moment it was sitting on a branch. The next, it was lunch. Now here's the part that's wild. That fish just solved a physics problem. You see, light bends when it moves between air and water, which means the insect isn't actually where it appears to be from below the surface. The fish knows that, and it adjusts every single time. So the question isn't how a fish can do that, the question is whether that fish knows what it's doing. And the answer to that question gets stranger the further down this list you go. So where exactly does instinct end and intelligence begin? And what happens when the animals with the smallest brains start doing things we thought only the biggest ones could? Stay with me. The archerfish lives in mangrove swamps and brackish coastal waters across Southeast Asia and Australia. It's not a large animal. It's not a particularly fast one. It survives by doing something no other fish on the planet does. It hunts above the surface. The mechanics alone are remarkable. When an archerfish locks onto a target, it forms a channel with its tongue against the roof of its mouth and forces a controlled jet of water through a tiny opening. The jet can travel up to 10 feet. It can knock insects, spiders, even small lizards off branches and into the water below. And the accuracy under the right conditions is close to perfect. But here's what makes it more than just a neat trick. The archerfish has to compensate for refraction, the bending of light as it passes between water and air. From below the surface, the insect appears to be in a different position than it actually is. Every shot the archerfish takes has to account for that distortion, adjusting aim based on the angle and distance to the target. This isn't a fixed behavior it was born knowing. Young archerfish miss constantly. They improve over time. And researchers discovered something that changed how we think about fish cognition entirely. Juvenile archerfish learn faster when they can watch experienced adults hunt. They observe, they adjust, and over time their accuracy improves. Reflexes don't get better from watching someone else. That distinction matters more than it sounds, and it goes further. When researchers presented archerfish with human faces on a screen, something they would never encounter in the wild, the fish learned to distinguish between them, identifying human faces at a rate that surprised the researchers running the test. They weren't trained for months. They weren't given complex rewards. They just figured it out. A fish with a brain the size of a small pea, identifying human faces with accuracy that challenged expectations entirely. So is that intelligence? Adjusting for physics, learning from observation, recognizing faces, or is it just a very elaborate set of instincts that we don't have a good word for yet? Either way, it's a fish, and the test results don't seem to care. Hold that question. It's about to get more complicated. On a coral reef off the coast of Australia, a tusk fish finds a clam. It picks it up in its mouth, carries it across the seafloor, and brings it to a specific piece of coral. Then it slams the clam against the coral, again and again, until the shell breaks open. Not just any piece of coral, a specific one. The same one it has used before and the same one it will use again. An actual tool, a fixed object selected and returned to for the purpose of breaking something open. When researchers first documented this in 2011, it was the first confirmed observation of a fish using a tool in the wild. Not a primate, not a crow, a fish. What makes the tusk fish particularly hard to dismiss is the deliberateness. The fish doesn't slam the clam against whatever surface is nearest. It carries it, sometimes a significant distance, to a chosen location. The coral anvil is selected for its shape and stability. The behavior has been observed repeatedly across individual fish, each one demonstrating the same deliberate choice of location. Think about what that requires. The fish has to recognize that the clam needs to be opened. It has to know that slamming it against something hard will open it. It has to identify which surface will work best. And it has to carry the clam there without eating it first, which means it's holding two things in mind simultaneously: the food and the method of getting to it. For a fish, that's a lot of steps. Cognitive scientists have a term for this. They call it means-end reasoning, the ability to understand that achieving a goal requires intermediate steps. It was considered a marker of higher cognition. Then the tusk fish showed up, doing it on a coral reef. The definition of tool use had to be rewritten. Nobody was looking for this. A recreational diver filmed it by accident and sent the footage to researchers. The tusk fish didn't know it was being studied. It was just solving a problem the way it always had, which, if you think about it, is a more impressive credential than passing a lab test. The octopus carries 2 halves of a coconut shell across the seafloor. Awkwardly, slowly, one half balanced underneath its body, arms curled around it, moving in a way that costs significantly more energy than walking without it. It looks ridiculous. It is, by any measure, inconvenient, and it does it anyway, which tells you something. The coconut shells were left behind by humans. Octopuses along the coast of Indonesia figured out that the curved halves could be assembled into a shelter. 2 pieces fitted together to form a protective dome. When researchers first observed this in 2009, what made it different from every other tool use documented in invertebrates was the anticipatory element. The octopus wasn't using the shell right then, it was carrying it to use later. It had a future use in mind. Researchers call this anticipatory tool use. Before the octopus, it had been documented in humans, great apes, and a handful of corvid birds. Then the octopus showed up and the list got longer. The octopus doesn't have a centralized brain. About 2/3 of its neurons are distributed through its arms. It has no skeleton. It lives in most species for less than 2 years, and it carries objects across the seafloor for future use. The energy cost matters here. Carrying the shell is objectively harder than not carrying it. The octopus is making a trade, present inconvenience for future benefit. That's a calculation. And it's being made by an animal whose brain, distributed across 8 arms, still somehow arrives at the same conclusion that future shelter is worth present effort. The short lifespan is the detail that stays with you. An octopus that lives for 2 years carries a coconut shell across the seafloor as a future investment and then dies. So the question remains, did it ever get to use the shelter? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Either way, it planned, and there's something about that which is harder to dismiss than any of the cognitive test results. The test results can be argued with. The coconut shell carried across the seafloor at extra effort cost by an animal that may not live long enough to use it. That's a little harder to explain away. Off the coast of Western Australia, in a body of water called Shark Bay, a population of bottlenose dolphins does something no other dolphin population in the world does. You guessed it, they wear sponges. And no, not decoratively. The dolphins tear marine sponges from the seafloor and wedge them onto their snouts while foraging along the rough, rocky bottom. The sponge protects them from abrasions and stings while they root around for fish hiding in the sediment. It's the equivalent of wearing a glove, a very specific glove, chosen for a very specific purpose, in a very specific environment. This behavior exists in Shark Bay and nowhere else. It isn't genetic. Researchers confirm this by studying the DNA of sponge-using dolphins versus non-sponge users in the same population. It isn't instinct, it's learned. Specifically, it's learned from mothers. Female dolphins teach their daughters. The technique passes through maternal lines across generations. Researchers have tracked it across decades and multiple generations of the same family lines. What makes this different from the other animals on this list is that word, culture. And I think that's the moment in this video where the question stops being about tools entirely. The archerfish learns from observation. The tusk fish returns to a chosen tool. The octopus plans ahead, but the Shark Bay dolphins have developed a behavior that exists in one place, in one population, transmitted socially through family lines that has persisted across generations. That's not tool use, that's a tradition. Researchers have a name for the original dolphin who started this. They call her Sponging Eve. They don't know exactly when she figured it out. They do know that what she started is still being passed down today, grandmother to mother to daughter, in the waters off Western Australia. Think about that lineage for a second. One dolphin figured something out. And it's still being taught. Most people draw the line at language, some draw it at tool use, some draw it at social learning. The Shark Bay dolphins have cleared all three, not in a lab, in the wild, in a specific patch of ocean, doing something no other dolphin on the planet does. At some point, the question stops being whether dolphins are intelligent. The question becomes what we mean by culture, and whether we're comfortable sharing that word. So here's what this video has actually been about. Every animal on this list does something that sits right at the edge of what we think intelligence means. The archerfish adjusts for physics and learns from watching others. The tusk fish selects a specific tool and returns to it. The octopus trades present effort for future benefit. The dolphin inherits a technique from her mother and will pass it to her daughter. None of them took a test. None of them were trying to prove anything. They were solving problems: food, shelter, safety. The same way they always have. And somewhere in the process of solving those problems, they crossed a line we thought only certain animals could cross. The truth is that the line doesn't exist the way we thought it did. We drew it based on what we could observe. And then the animals started doing things we couldn't explain within the boundaries we'd set. The tusk fish didn't know it was rewriting the definition of tool use. The octopus didn't know it was demonstrating anticipatory cognition. Sponging Eve didn't know she was starting a cultural tradition. They just kept solving problems. And the problems kept getting solved. Which raises a question worth sitting with. If the outcome is the same, if the problem gets solved and the behavior gets passed on and the population thrives, does it matter whether we call it intelligence? The fish doesn't care what we call it. The octopus doesn't know it's being debated. The dolphin using a sponge today has never heard the word cognition. She just learned it from her mother. What that means for intelligence, for where instinct ends and something else begins, is still being debated. The researchers studying these animals don't agree on where the line is. They just keep moving it further out. And every time they move it, something else shows up on the other side. That pattern is the most unsettling thing in this video. Not the fish, not the octopus, the pattern. If you want to see a video about the animals that turned a completely different skill into something terrifying, check out the one on the only 4 animals that actually hunt humans. Thanks for watching.